Commander Jake Sullivan sat in his chair on the bridge of the UES Normandy, drinking his morning coffee. The stars looked peaceful through the main window. His crew was doing their usual morning checks when the communications officer suddenly looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from the Galactic Council," Officer Lisa Park said. Her voice was shaking a little. Jake almost dropped his coffee. The Galactic Council had never talked to humans before. In fact, most alien species acted like humans didn't exist. They thought humans were too violent and primitive to join their fancy space club. "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The screen flickered and showed an alien face. Jake recognized the species from old files. It was a Valerian with blue skin and large eyes. But this one looked terrible. His clothes were torn and dirty. His eyes were full of fear. "I am Ambassador Zethkar of the Valerian Federation," the alien said. His voice was tired and desperate. "I speak for the Galactic Council in this dark hour. We need your help." Jake's crew looked at each other in shock. The proud Valerians were asking humans for help. "Something very bad must have happened," Zethkar continued speaking. "3 months ago, something terrible woke up in the center of our galaxy. We call them the Devourers. They are ancient machines that eat everything in their path. They turn planets, ships, and entire star systems into more of themselves." The screen showed images that made Jake's blood run cold. Massive black machines, each one the size of a city, moved through space like hungry sharks. Behind them was nothing but empty space where entire solar systems used to be. "They started small," Zethkar explained. "It's just a few machines near the galactic core. We thought our technology could stop them easily. We were wrong." More images appeared. Jake saw beautiful alien ships with smooth curves and glowing energy. Weapons. But the Devourers tore through them like paper. The machines absorbed every energy blast and seemed to grow stronger. "The Kronari Empire sent their best fleet," Zethkar said. "Their reality-bending weapons couldn't even scratch the Devourers. The Nethys Collective tried to attack them with psychic powers. Machines just absorbed the mental energy and used it against us." Jake watched as entire fleets of alien ships were destroyed or captured. The Devourers didn't just destroy the ships, they took them apart and rebuilt them into more killing machines. "We lost the Altair system last week," Zethkar continued. 12 billion people live there. Now, it's just raw material for the Devourer's swarm. The ambassador's voice broke a little. Jake could see that this proud alien was completely broken. "Inside, every weapon we have tried has failed," Zethkar said. "Energy shields, plasma cannons, antimatter bombs, quantum torpedoes. The Devourers adapt to everything. They learn from every attack and become immune to it." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "What makes you think we can help?" "Our weapons are much simpler than yours." Zethkar looked directly at Jake through the screen. "Because you fight differently than we do. We have studied your military history from your old radio broadcasts. You use tactics that make no sense to us. Tactics that are brutal and primitive." The alien paused for a moment. "The Devourers were built to fight civilized species. They expect logical tactics and advanced weapons. But you humans fight like wild animals when you have to." "What we need now." Jake thought about all the wars humans had fought. World War II, the Mars colony uprising, the asteroid belt conflicts. Humans did fight differently than these advanced aliens. When humans were desperate, they threw out all the rules. "How much time do we have?" Jake asked. Zethkar's face became even more grim. "Our long-range sensors show the main Devourer swarm heading toward your space. They will reach Earth in 6 months if nothing stops them." It changed everything. This wasn't just about helping some stuck-up aliens anymore. This was about protecting Earth and every human in the galaxy. "I need to contact my superiors," Jake said. "Commander Sullivan," Zethkar said quietly. "I know our species have not been friends. We called you primitives and barbarians. We said you were too violent to join civilized space. We were proud and foolish. Now we are begging for your help." The transmission ended. Jake stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Then he turned to his communications officer. Get me Admiral Lisa Harper at Terra Command. Emergency priority. While they waited for the connection, Jake thought about what he had just seen. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy were losing a war against machines. Their fancy technology and logical thinking weren't enough. Admiral Harper's face appeared on the screen. She was a tough woman with gray hair and scars from the Mars War. "Jake, what's the situation?" she asked. Jake explained everything Zethkar had told him. He watched Harper's face get more serious with every word. "Send me all the data, Harper." Ordered. "I'm calling an emergency meeting with the President and the Joint Chiefs. This is bigger than anything we've faced before." "Admiral, do you think we can actually help them?" Jake asked. Harper was quiet for a moment. "Jake, remember what General Patton said about the enemy expecting us to do the reasonable thing?" "Yes, ma'am." "He said we should do the unreasonable thing. Instead, that's exactly what I'm thinking," Harper said. "These devourers have been fighting civilized enemies who follow rules and use logical tactics. They've never faced humans who are desperate enough to try anything." The connection ended, and Jake was alone with his thoughts. He looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, ancient killing machines were heading toward Earth. The most advanced species in the galaxy couldn't stop them. But maybe they had been thinking about this all wrong. Maybe being primitive and violent wasn't a weakness. Maybe it was exactly what the galaxy needed right now. Jake finished his coffee and started preparing his ship for whatever came next. In a few hours, the leaders of humanity would decide whether to risk everything to save a galaxy that had never wanted them. But Jake already knew what the answer would be. Humans didn't back down from a fight, especially when their home was threatened. The aliens had called them barbarians and warned. Soon, they would find out exactly what that meant. President John Carter stood in the war room deep under the White House. The room was full of military leaders, scientists, and advisors. Everyone looked worried as they watched the alien data on the big screens. Admiral Lisa Harper pointed at the images of destroyed alien fleets. "The devourers have wiped out civilizations that are thousands of years ahead of us," she said. "Their weapons make our best technology look like stone knives." General Mike Rogers, head of the Space Marines, shook his head. "So why do they think we can help? Our ships are basically flying metal boxes compared to theirs." Dr. Helen Wu, the top scientist on alien technology, raised her hand. "I've been studying their battle reports. The devourers adapt to every weapon type they face. Energy weapons, particle beams, quantum disruptors. But look at this pattern." She changed the screen to show how the machines evolved. "They're designed to counter advanced clean warfare. They absorb energy attacks and turn them into power. They hack into computer systems and take control of smart weapons." President Carter leaned forward. "What are you saying, Doctor?" "Saying they might not know how to handle our kind of warfare. We still use chemical explosives, kinetic weapons, and mechanical systems, things that can't be hacked or absorbed." Admiral Harper nodded slowly. "The aliens fight like chess masters. Everything is planned and precise, but humans fight like street fighters when we have to." General Rogers smiled grimly. "You mean we should show them our ugly side?" "Yeah, that's exactly what I mean," Harper replied. President Carter looked around the room. "If we do this, we're risking everything. Our entire fleet, millions of lives. And we'd be helping species that have treated us like dirt for decades." Sir Admiral Harper said quietly, "They're heading for our space anyway. We're going to have to fight them eventually. It's better to do it with allies, even reluctant ones." Carter was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up straight. "Do it. Give Admiral Harper whatever she needs." Authorization for Operation Steel Rain. 2 days later, Admiral Harper stood on the bridge of the EU's Ragnarok. Around her, the largest human fleet ever assembled was getting ready for war. 12 massive dreadnought ships floated in space near Mars, Each one was a fortress of metal and weapons. The human ships looked nothing like the elegant alien vessels. Where alien ships were smooth and beautiful, human warships were angular and threatening. They looked like what they were built for. War Captain Maya Rodriguez walked up to Harper. "All ships report ready, Admiral. The crews are eager to get started." Harper looked at the fleet through the window. The UES Hellfire was loading its missile tubes. The UES Vengeance was testing its railguns. Every ship bristled with weapons that aliens would consider primitive and brutal. "Captain Rodriguez, want you to understand something," Harper said. "We're not going out there to play by galactic rules. We're going to fight the way humans have always fought. Dirty, desperate, and with everything we have." Rodriguez grinned. "That's the only way I know how to fight, Admiral." The alien observer on the bridge, a Valerian named Kethmer, looked nervous as he watched the human preparations. He had been sent to coordinate with the human fleet, but nothing about their tactics made sense to him. "Admiral Harper," Kethmer said carefully, "I notice your ships carry no energy shields. How will you protect yourselves?" "Armor," Harper replied simply. "Lots and lots of armor. But armor is so primitive. Energy shields are much more efficient." Harper looked at the alien. "Can the Devourers adapt to energy shields?" "Well, yes. But can they adapt to 3 feet of titanium steel?" Kethmer was quiet for a moment. I do not know." Captain Alex Thompson's voice came over the radio from the UES Hellfire. "Admiral, we're getting some interesting reactions from our alien guests. They seem horrified by our weapons loadout." Harper switched to the fleet channel. "All captains, report your status." "UES Hellfire ready," Thompson said. "We're carrying 2,000 kinetic missiles, 500 nuclear warheads, and enough conventional explosives to crack a moon." U.S. "Vengeance ready," Captain Sam Davis reported. "Railguns charged, boarding pods loaded, and our Marines are sharpening their knives." One by one, the other captains reported in. Each ship carried weapons that made the alien observer turn pale. Chemical weapons, biological agents, something the humans called planet crackers, bombs designed to split worlds apart. Kethmer couldn't stay quiet anymore. "Admiral, these weapons are forbidden by every civilized species, or violate dozens of galactic treaties." Harper turned to look at him. "Good thing we never signed those treaties. When you're fighting for survival, there are no rules. But the collateral damage will be less than what happens if we lose." Harper cut him off. "Your people tried fighting clean. How did that work out?" The alien had no answer to that. Captain Rodriguez studied the tactical data from the front lines. The aliens had been fighting the same way for thousands of years. Long-range energy weapons, precision strikes, minimal casualties. It was elegant and civilized, but the Devourers had adapted to all of it. They turned alien weapons against them and used their own technology to grow stronger. "They're expecting another civilized opponent," Rodriguez muttered to herself. "They're not ready for barbarians." Lieutenant Commander Jenny Brooks, the weapons officer, looked up from her console. "Captain, I've been thinking about these Devourer machines. They adapt to everything they face, right? That's what the aliens say. But they can only adapt to things they understand. What if we hit them with something so crazy, so random, that their computers can't figure out a pattern?" Rodriguez smiled. "Keep talking. What if we don't follow any tactical doctrine at all? No formations, no planned attacks, just pure chaos. Make it impossible for them to predict what we'll do next." "I like it," Rodriguez said. "Send that idea to Admiral Harper." Across the fleet, human crews prepared for battle in ways that shocked. Their alien observers, where alien warriors meditated and performed precise rituals. Human soldiers told jokes, played cards, cleaned weapons with loving care. The Marines practiced boarding drills that involved charging into enemy ships with nothing but explosives and hand weapons. The pilots trained for suicide runs and ramming attacks. Everything the aliens saw went against their ideas of civilized warfare. Admiral Harper received a message from the Galactic Council. They were grateful for human help but wanted to coordinate tactics and follow established military protocols. Harper deleted the message without reading it all the way through. Admiral Captain Rodriguez asked over the radio, "What are our rules of engagement?" Harper's reply was heard by every human in the fleet, and it became legendary among the crews. There are no rules. Win at any cost. Let's show them what hell looks like. The human fleet began moving toward the front lines. Behind them, Earth watched and waited. Ahead of them, an enemy that had defeated the greatest civilizations in the galaxy was about to meet something new. They were about to meet humanity. At war. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler system. What they saw made even the veteran crews fall silent. Captain Maya Rodriguez stared at the destruction through the bridge window of the EU's Ragnarok. Broken pieces of alien ships floated everywhere like a graveyard in space. Some of the wreckage was still glowing from recent battles. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Commander Jenny Brooks. "How many ships were destroyed here?" The alien observer, Kethmer, looked sick. This was the combined fleet of 7 civilizations, over 3,000 ships. The pride of the galaxy. Only a few dozen battered alien vessels remained, hiding behind a small moon. They looked like wounded animals trying to stay alive. But the real horror was what floated in the center of the system. Hundreds of massive black machines moved through space like giant metal spiders. Devourer was the size of a city, covered in weapons and armor made from the remains of defeated ships. Admiral Harper's voice came over the radio. "All ships. This is it. Everything we've trained for comes down to the next few hours." Captain Alex Thompson from the UES Hellfire responded first. "Admiral, those things are huge. Our weapons look like toys compared to them. Size doesn't matter." "If you hit the right spots," Harper replied. "Remember, they're not expecting us. Use that advantage." Rodriguez opened a channel to the surviving alien ships. A Valerian admiral named Zethaval appeared on screen. His face was covered in cuts, and his uniform was burned. "Human ships, thank the stars you came," Zethaval said. "But you must coordinate with us. We have battle plans, and no," Rodriguez cut him off. "Your battle plans got your fleets destroyed. We're doing this our way. But you cannot just attack without coordination. Military doctrine requires." Rodriguez switched off the communication. She turned to her weapons officer. "Jenny, are all tubes loaded?" "Yes, ma'am. Kinetic rounds, chemical explosives, and some special surprises." "Good. Send a message to all human ships. Tell them the gloves are off." Rodriguez opened the fleet channel and said the words that would be remembered forever. "All ships. Weapons free. Show them what hell looks like." The first human attack was nothing like what the Devourers expected. Instead of energy beams or plasma bolts, the EU's Ragnarok fired a cloud of tungsten rods accelerated to incredible speed. The metal rods hit the nearest Devourer like bullets from God. The machine had no defense against simple physics. Its shields were designed to absorb energy, not stop solid metal moving at light speed. The rods punched through its armor like paper. The Devourer tried to adapt, changing its shield frequency and restructuring its hull. But there was nothing to adapt to. The human weapons were just dumb metal and explosives. Captain Sam Davis on the UES Vengeance launched a swarm of missiles. But these weren't smart weapons with computer guidance. They were simple rockets with chemical warheads, guided by mechanical systems that couldn't be hacked. The Devourers tried to take control of the missiles like they had done with alien weapons. But there were no computers to hack, no advanced systems to override. The missiles just kept coming. "Target the big one in the center," Rodriguez ordered. "All ships focus fire." The human fleet opened up with everything they had. Railguns fired. Solid metal slugs. Chemical rockets exploded against Devourer hulls. Nuclear warheads detonated in brilliant flashes. The aliens watching from their hiding place were horrified and amazed. Admiral Zethavel contacted Rodriguez again. "This is madness," he said. "You're using forbidden weapons. You have no formation, no strategy." "That's the point," Rodriguez replied, while her ship shook from enemy fire. "They can't adapt to chaos." The Devourers were trying to understand the human attack pattern, but there wasn't one. Each human ship fought independently, using different weapons and tactics. Some ships charged straight at the enemy. Others circled around and attacked from behind. Captain Thompson made a decision that shocked everyone. "All hands prepare for boarding action," he announced on the UES Hellfire. "Sir, that's suicide," his first officer protested. "Maybe, but those machines won't expect it." Thompson launched dozens of small pods filled with human marines. The pods had no shields, no advanced technology. They were just metal boxes with rockets and angry humans inside. The Devourers tried to shoot down the pods, but there were too many. The pods crashed into the enemy machines, and the Marines burst out with explosives, plasma cutters, and pure human fury. The machines had never faced boarding attacks before. All their experience was with long-range space combat. They had no idea how to fight humans running through their corridors with grenades and determination. Sergeant Tony Martinez led his squad through the dark passages inside a Devourer. The machine tried to seal doors and activate security systems, but the Marines just blew through everything with explosives. "This is Sergeant Martinez," he radioed back to his ship. "We're inside the Big Ugly, setting charges on what looks like the main computer." "Copy that, Sergeant. Get out of there fast." "Negative, sir. Someone needs to make sure these charges go off." "Tell my wife I love her." The explosion tore the Devourer apart from the inside. The machine's adaptive systems couldn't repair damage that came from within, all across the battlefield. Human tactics that made no sense were working. Captain Davis on the UES Vengeance made the most insane decision of all. "All hands brace for impact," he announced. "We're ramming the command ship." "Captain, that's a suicide run," his weapons officer said. "Sometimes that's what it takes to win." Davis aimed his ship at the largest Devourer and fired all engines. The alien observers watched in horror as the massive human dreadnought smashed into the enemy machine at full speed. The collision triggered every nuclear warhead on the UES Vengeance. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from the other side of the system. When the light faded, both ships were gone, along with 3 other Devourers caught in the blast. The remaining Devourers tried to regroup, but the human attack had broken their formation. They couldn't adapt to tactics that had no logic, no pattern, no civilized structure. Captain Rodriguez pressed the attack. "All ships, keep hitting them. Don't give them time to think." The battle raged for 6 hours. By the end, the space around Kepler was filled with the wreckage of both human and Devourer ships. But the ancient machines were retreating for the first time in their existence. Admiral Harper surveyed the damage from her command ship. Of the 12 human dreadnoughts that entered the battle, only 5 were still functional. Thousands of brave humans had died in boarding actions and suicide runs, but they had one. The Devourer swarm was broken and running. Admiral Zethaval contacted the human fleet again. This time, his voice was full of respect and wonder. "How do you fight like that?" he asked. "How do you throw away lives so icily?" Rodriguez, now promoted to acting admiral after Harper was wounded, gave an answer that would echo across the galaxy. "We don't throw away lives, Admiral. We invest them. Every human who died today bought time for billions more to live. That's not insanity. That's love." Aliens finally understood. Humans didn't fight with cold logic or advanced technology. They fought with emotion, sacrifice, and an unbreakable will to protect what they cared about. For the first time in galactic history, someone had beaten the Devourers, and they had done it by being exactly what the advanced civilizations called them: primitive, violent, and unpredictable. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The wreckage of the battle floated in space like a metal graveyard. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the EU's Ragnarok, now serving as acting admiral after Admiral Harper was injured in the fighting. Her ship was damaged, but still alive, unlike so many others. Through the window, she could see the surviving human vessels. The UES Hellfire had lost half its hull, but was still flying. The U's Thunder was venting atmosphere from a dozen holes. Only 5 ships remained from the 12 that had entered the battle, but they had one. For the first time in months, the Devourer machines were running away instead of advancing. The ancient enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations was retreating. In confusion and fear, Rodriguez's communications officer looked up from his station. "Ma'am, we're getting signals from all across the galaxy. Word of our victory is spreading fast. What kind of signals?" "Congratulations from species we've never heard of, requests from military advisors, and a lot of questions about how we did." Rodriguez almost smiled. A few hours ago, humans were the barbarians that nobody wanted to talk to. Now, everyone wanted to know their secrets. Admiral Zethavel's face appeared on the main screen. The Valerian looked tired but amazed. Behind him, Rodriguez could see his bridge crew staring at the human ships with something like awe. "Acting Admiral Rodriguez Zethavel said formally, "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I want to thank you for what you have done. You achieved in 6 hours what our combined fleets could not do in months." "We had help," Rodriguez replied. "Your people fought bravely too." "No," Zethavel shook his head. "He hid behind a moon while you charged into death itself. I've never seen anything like what your species did today." Rodriguez thought about Captain Davis ramming his ship into the enemy, about Sergeant Martinez dying inside a devourer to plant explosives, but all the Marines who charged into alien corridors knowing they wouldn't come back. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why didn't any of your people try boarding actions? Or ramming attacks? Or any of the tactics we used?" Says Thevawale was quiet for a moment. "Because they are inefficient, they waste lives and resources. They go against everything we learned about civilized warfare. But they work." "Yes," Zethavel admitted. "They work. That is something we never considered." Dr. Helen Wu's voice came. Over the radio from the science ship U.S. Discovery, "Rodriguez, I've been analyzing the Devourer wreckage. I think I know why our tactics were so effective." "Go ahead, Doctor." "These machines were designed millions of years ago by a species that valued efficiency above all else. They're programmed to counter logical, predictable behavior. But human tactics aren't logical. They're emotional." Rodriguez nodded. That made sense. The Devourers could adapt to energy weapons and smart missiles because those followed patterns. But how do you adapt to pure human stubbornness? "Doctor, what about the ones that got away?" "They'll be back," Wu said grimly. "Our sensors show more swarms awakening from the galactic core. Hundreds of them." The bridge fell silent. They had won one battle, but the war was far from over. Ambassador Zethkar's voice came over the emergency council channel. He was speaking to representatives from dozens of species across the galaxy. "Fellow council members," he said, "we have witnessed something unprecedented today. The human fleet has defeated a devourer swarm using tactics that we considered primitive and brutal." Rodriguez listened as alien voices filled the channel. Some species were grateful, others were confused. A few sounded afraid. "How can we be sure they won't use these weapons against us?" asked a Kronari general. Because Zethkar replied, "They could have demanded anything from us for their help. Territory, technology, resources. Instead, they asked for nothing but the chance to fight alongside us." President John Carter's image appeared on Rodriguez's screen. He was broadcasting from Earth to the entire galaxy. "People of the stars," Carter began, "today our species proved that we belong among you. Not because we're the most advanced or the most civilized, but because we're willing to do whatever it takes to protect innocent life." Rodriguez watched as Carter continued his speech. "For years you called us violent and primitive. You were right. Sometimes violence is the only answer to evil. Sometimes primitive tactics are what saves civilized worlds." The president paused and looked directly into the camera. "We offer our friendship to all peaceful species, and to any who would threaten the innocent. We offer this warning. You have seen what humans do when we fight for something we believe in. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. The Galactic Council formally recognized humanity as a full member. Species that had ignored humans for decades now sent ambassadors to Earth. But more importantly, they sent students. Captain Alex Thompson found himself teaching boarding tactics to Valerian Marines. The proud alien struggled with the concept of charging into enemy ships with nothing but courage and explosives. "But the casualty rates will be terrible," protested Commander Veltar. Thompson agreed. "But if you don't learn to fight dirty, you'll have 100% casualties when the Devourers come back." Rodriguez received a message from Earth. She was being promoted to full admiral and given, command of a new project training alien species in human military doctrine. The irony wasn't lost on her. The same tactics that made aliens call humans barbarians were now being studied in military academies across the galaxy. Captain Sam Davis's sacrifice became legend. The Valerians built a monument to him and the crew of the UES Vengeance. Inscription read, "To those who chose to ram death itself so others might live." But the most important change was in how the galaxy prepared for war. Every major fleet now included human advisors. Alien engineers studied human ship designs, learning to build vessels that could take damage, instead of just avoiding it. Dr. Wu worked with alien scientists to develop new weapons. They combined human brutality with alien technology, creating tools of war that the Devourers had never encountered. The new ships they built reflected this partnership. The UES Peacekeeper carried Valerian energy cores, but fired human kinetic weapons. The UES Protector used Chronar phase technology to deliver chemical warheads. Leading them all was the new flagship, the EU's necessary evil. Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her new command as the mixed fleet prepared to launch toward the galactic core. Human crews worked alongside alien soldiers who had learned to fight, with emotion as well as logic. "All ships report ready," came the voice of Captain Jenny Brooks, now commanding the U.S. Hellfire II. Rodriguez looked out at the fleet. Ships from dozens of species floated in formation, but they all carried human weapons and human tactics. More importantly, they carried human determination. "This is Admiral Rodriguez to all ships," she announced. 3 months ago, the galaxy was losing a war against machines that couldn't be stopped. Today we go to finish what we started. She paused, thinking of all the humans who had died to reach this moment. The Devourers are ancient and powerful. They've destroyed civilizations that were thousands of years ahead of us. But they made one mistake. They never learned to fight humans who have something worth dying for. The fleet began moving toward the galactic core, where more Devourer swarms waited in the darkness. But now they faced something new. A galaxy united not by logic or technology, but by the human understanding that some things are worth any sacrifice. As Earth fell behind them, Rodriguez smiled. The aliens had called humans primitive and violent. They were right, and that was exactly what was going to save them all.